So people are now building brands, and that's where I'm getting lit up. That's where I'm excited. I want to be around people who want to do something that's going to be great for the world.
Hey everybody, Roland Frasier with Business Lunch here with my guest and good friend, Tony Grebmeier. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Awesome.
So tell us a little bit. I always like to start out with, we have a 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure, whatever company, just so that the people that are watching, listening can say, okay, that's somebody that is where I want to be or has done significant things. Where are you in your journey on the 7-8-figure?
8-figure business.
Okay, great.
Year 18 of running a company.
Okay.
So it's been interesting.
That's awesome. So will you tell us a little bit about the company first, and then we can kind of figure out how you got to where you are now?
Perfect. It's ShipOffers. We're a logistics and fulfillment company. Help you also source products depending on if it's survival, if it's books, if it's a supplement, whatever you have as a need, we can specifically help you get there. And then partners, strategic partners around traffic and marketing and all that good stuff. We bring it all together. We're based in Colorado, kind of central. Now getting to what this industry has really showed us. If Amazon's out there getting packages second day, now they're talking about 1 day. Now they're talking about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now they're talking about, oh, you ordered it, here it is. We're talking about, there's some things in our business that we need you to be paying attention to. So now we're opening and looking at new locations and trying to grow and globally, help you get that product there in a day or two.
Yeah, that's it's amazing what they've been able to do and the costs that it takes for a smaller company. And by smaller, I mean you didn't do 140 billion last year in North America. I don't think.
No.
So it's tough, right? Because they've got all these resources and everything. But you do more than that, and I really think it's cool. And I want us to brainstorm how we get this message out better, because you actually help somebody that comes and says, hey, I want to sell something. I'd like to be in business. I'd like to have an online business. And you're not selling you're not promoting this at all, but it's pretty freaking awesome that you get people that come to you that have some money and say, how I'd like to do this. I'd like to go into business, because you already have all the bits. You're like a Lego guy, you got all the blocks that fit together. Would you talk about that just a minute and give me an example? So if I came to you and said, Tony, I don't know anything about this whole world, but you know everybody. I do have some money I'd like to invest. What would you tell them?
Well, a couple things. I mean, my first question is, how much money can you throw at it and not get a return on?
Okay.
And, someone will say, I got $100,000 to $200,000 to play with. I'm like, all right, let's start there.
And when you say not get a return on, what does that mean?
It means you could totally lose it, go sideways, and you're,
right. It's money
basically
that you're willing to invest with significant risk of possible loss.
Yeah, and I and Vegas for a weekend.
Right.
You go to a blackjack table, how much could you lose and feel like it was no big deal?
Not that you would do that, but
it's
that
the idea that you
it.
have to have.
Right.
Because the people that I play with in this arena are good, but they can't predict what Google's going to do or Facebook's going to do or Twitter or any of these places. So by tomorrow it could be all gone. The industry completely took a shift. So what we like to do is sit down and brainstorm things that you're passionate about. And I always say, like, well, I'm not passionate about supplements. I'm like, but let's just find a common something that we could go after.
Let's do that with me, since I haven't talked with you about doing anything, so that we can see how this might evolve if you were to have this conversation with somebody that's listening or watching.
So, Roland, I appreciate the opportunity. You said you have some capital. You'd love to learn about the supplement space.
I can't afford to lose it, though.
Well, I can't work with you.
See, that's good. Okay. All right, good. So he's true to what he says. Okay.
So what I want to try to figure out is, what are some things that when you look back at your life, kind of where you're at now, things that maybe you saw in the medicine cabinet that you took frequently that you were always running out of and you thought, hey, that'd be fun, or things that you're passionate about maybe today, like sports. And as I've gotten older, I have problems with my knees. Not necessarily arthritis, but inflammation. So now I'm spending more time in turmeric. I'm thinking about things to help me reduce my inflammation. So things that I'm at least somewhat interested in.
Okay. So I'm harder there because I don't take any medication, and I have been very, very lucky that I don't have to.
Do you make smoothies?
I'm gonna hang on. I'm not going to leave you hanging.
All right, good.
So I'm thinking about, as you're saying, and I don't really have energy challenges, but my wife has significant energy challenges because she had her thyroid removed. And
let's talk about thyroid, because I think that would be the spot that would be the product that I would go down the road with, because it's your partner in life and you care about her health and you want to get her better.
Yeah.
So I would do some research and we would try to figure out, hey, maybe a thyroid offer is something good. Now then you may say to yourself, a prescription versus, something like of a supplement, how much can I find data on? If you look, you can go Google any of this kind of stuff. You'll just find tons of reports about thyroid.
Yeah.
So
you also mentioned, if this is easier, just to give you the full spectrum, she also, she tore her meniscuses and her ACL playing tennis. And so she's had challenges with leg pain since then as well.
Yeah, I think everything that I know, and I have a very limited degree around this, so don't look at me and say, oh, I'm going to go after this person.
I assume that you're giving me medical and financial advice right now. Okay. All right.
Inflammation. So when I'm sick, my body has some issue with inflammation, right? So I'm going to go supplement against that because if I can reduce my inflammation, I'm going to feel better. So first I'm going to go after your thyroid, and then now I know I'm going to go after some aches and pains in your body and joints. So that'd be maybe an interesting stack to even look at as an upsell option.
Okay.
So I got the first one as a thyroid because I can go prove a bunch of stuff. Here's why it's important to regulate it. You don't have one. Here's some issues against it. And then secondary is, hey, you know what? I think all of us deal at times where as we get older, we try to get that piece of paper down on the ground or that penny that I dropped, and it's a little harder to bend down and pick it up. But what happens if we could figure that out? So I would take something with that, go sit with some copywriters that I've worked with in the past, and I would start trying to create and script up some angles that are uniquely different than what's out there today because everybody out there is trying to sell you something that's more or less the same. They're just trying to find an angle. So we would sit down and specifically figure that out. Number two, we'd figure out, because you said, I have a couple $100,000 to lose, that's great. But I actually, in reality, if we're going to custom this or just take it from the shelf of what we have at ShipOffers, you may be then saying...
And a lot of people might not know that. So will you speak just for a second to how kind of this white labeling type thing works?
Yeah.
'Cause a lot of people might not know what that
We started way back in 2001, and we literally launched with a product called Virility Pills, and it cost us $13.50 to produce from a lab. And I'm like, $13.50, there's no way I could scale a business. Well, fast forward to today, that same product is around $3.
Okay.
So what we decided to do was figure out a margin for us to take all the risk and give you, the person who was interested in using our stock, our inventory. The wind changes tomorrow, you're not out any money.
Right.
So we have a catalog of over 50 products like that one I mentioned. And for
these are things you have on the shelf. So if I decide I want to sell a green product, like you said, a green powder, let's say a green drink, then I probably go to you and say, yeah, no, I got that. It's already done. And if we wanted to tweak it somehow, we can do that, but you also have a
custom formula.
Right, but you have it right on the shelf, and because you have them on the shelf, it is less expensive because you're buying in bulk and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and then...
Because I don't think a lot of people know that. It's like they think they have to go find all the ingredients and create something themselves, but that's just not the case.
The best advice I ever received early on in my career is test.
Yeah.
If you can test,
right.
And I have something you can test and it doesn't cost you a lot of money, you'd be a fool not to try.
So test with your unique angle that you think is going to be good, and then if you want to add, panda root to it, I don't know that there is anything, but a panda root to it, then you're like, I'm going to go find panda root for yourself. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's really the angle we would sit down and talk with. So the thing that is most important is you can have the best product in the world, and that's why I tell people don't custom formulate to start. There's no reason to, because let's go test early and get some data and then come back with that data.
That's so smart though, because so many people that I know, and I need to add this too. I did a little thing the other day about getting ready to get ready. And so many people get ready and form the corporation and all that kind of stuff. But also, you don't have to spend a ton of money on the product before you know that it works as well. So I really like that.
Yeah, and so if I can get you to test, we can get some data we can figure out is viable, then we can figure out how to help you scale.
Okay.
And those are all resources, strategic partnerships, as you and I were talking on the phone. That's the whole reason I'm sitting here today is you talked to me for a little bit and you're like, would you be willing to discuss it? I'm like, that's what I do.
Right.
Sure, any day, every day. Because I'm looking for strategic partners.
Right.
And so it helps open up a whole new Rolodex, because when I go to somebody who's a media buyer and I'm like, I've got 5 customers for you, they love me even more. And that customer gets a discount because I have volume. And then when I go to the lab and I say, I want to make this product, and this product, they're like, wow, that's a lot. What have you been doing? I'm like, oh, I've been helping people build brands.
Right.
So
it's
a win for everyone.
So now we've kind of talked about what that white label thing is and that you have this shelf of things. So now knowing what I'm kind of interested in, you're going to the copywriters for the angle and to the shelf of stuff you've got to see if there's something that works.
And then from there, I'm going to sit back and we're going to test for a little bit, research the data and figure out, okay,
Now, when you say you're gonna do that, so I don't have to worry about it?
You don't have to worry about it. That's
Because I don't want to do it.
I want you just to do what you love, which is you got money and you want to invest and you want to come back and make sure there's a good return. Okay. That's really what you want to work on.
Now, do I own this? Do I own my company?
It's 100% yours.
Okay. So you're not taking equity?
No, and my joy and love and what we do is really love helping people figure out what that looks like. And then I love the fulfillment side of it and the product formulation side of it. So once you test, and now you're incubated in our industry, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make sure that you're happy, my lab's happy, and as a customer, you're being fulfilled. So everything works. It's a win-win.
And you make your money from the formulation side. Maybe somebody, if you refer them out to a copywriter or something, throws you a bone or something. I don't know if they do.
Very rarely. I'm not making kickbacks.
But it's okay, good.
The kickbacks come from you using us. And if you decide to go somewhere else, great.
Right. So there are no kickbacks basically. And so you make the money from the formulation. It's the spread on what it costs you versus what you offer it, which obviously makes sense for you to do. And you ship things for people. You actually deliver, thus the name ShipOffers, right? Okay. So now we've got that and we've got the product. Now what happens?
Well, we make money.
Okay.
We really do.
Right.
I mean, it's not our long process. The process really comes is I didn't know I could go do that. And a lot
I did not know that you do this until we had the conversation the other day.
Yeah, and I think there's so much fear around it. They're like, because everybody and their mother sell supplements. So like, I can't get rich doing that. I can't make any money. I can tell you right now, case after case, a couple $100,000 investment could lead you to multiple 6 and 7 figures of income coming in really, really
nothing,
quick.
No guarantees, right?
No, but more often than I see it, you still have the 1 in 10. Copywriter doesn't convert the very first time. You're out that money.
Right.
But that's why I say, hey, do you have money to play?
Right.
My job is I've got an 18-year-old company. So I'm still here today helping you to understand that I want you to be here tomorrow. Right. I'm not looking for a one and run and burn down.
And you've done this for a lot of people I know, right? So one thing that you also said, because you do this and because you have product on the shelf that I thought was really, really cool is if things don't work out and I bought $20,000 worth of XYZ pills, you actually said you don't promise, obviously, because there's no guarantees, but you actually very frequently, almost always, are able to have other people who are selling that kind of stuff take it off your hands. And so there's no inventory loss, which is huge, right? I know one of Ryan's friends wanted to do lighters and it was like, a $5,000 order to this company in China. And if he didn't sell the lighters, congratulations, you have a pallet full of lighters. But that doesn't really happen in this business, right?
No, not in the supplement space, but I will tell you, I run a warehouse and Ryan and I were talking at break about, I have pallets and pallets of backpacks for marketers who pre-bought.
I wish I'd have known this when I got all the backpacks just recently. That would have been good.
And they bought it all needing the inventory.
Right.
But then the wind changed. And those backpacks are now like everybody else's backpacks.
Right, exactly.
So imagine if I took that risk away from you in the supplement space.
That's pretty cool.
And you didn't have to worry about it. And all you really had to focus on was what there was. And I watch the trends and I'm never a believer to catch the current wave. Mm-hmm. So back in the day when I used to boogie board or surf, you're sitting on your board and the waves are coming. Everybody's like, I want to go paddle for this board. I'm like, I'm not. And people would go, why? And I'm like, because time tells me that the waves will be better if I am patient enough. And everybody wants to jump in the latest trend, but I'm like, the wave's coming. The set is unbelievable. My friends are all passed out against the rocks. They're all tired. They got beat up. They were drowning because they didn't know what to do. And I'm like, no, the waves will come. Will you be patient enough? And so I like to watch trends, not necessarily ride them all the way into the rocks, but definitely be patient.
Wait for the wave. That sounds like a post. I like that. Okay. So that's it. Now I have a product. I'm done. That's awesome.
And then what we'll do is we'll keep incubating because you're now that you've got a product and you're testing and you're liking and you're making money, now you're getting into, I've got a brand. Mm-hmm. Because some people that we've done business for, they don't really care what the product is. Mm-hmm. I try to find some of it. And maybe they're in trials, and trials in this industry now have changed so much. So people are now building brands. And that's where I'm getting lit up. That's where I'm excited. I want to be around people who want to do something that's going to be great for the world. Mm-hmm. So be passionate about what it is. And then, like if you can go home and you look at your wife and you're like, how are you feeling? And she says, I feel amazing. You're going to be investing more time in figuring out what else can you do? At least for me, and I know you'd want to make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for people who are not just in for a quick buck, for the long-term journey.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you said that you got into this back in the day when I think you said they wanted 13 some dollars for something that's now $3, what was the next step in getting you to where you are now? Because that was, you basically decided, I'm going to sell a product, and you went through the process that we talked about that is the process. So
we started in my garage.
Okay.
I mean, I still remember, having my 2 business partners at the time drive up the 405, get onto the 5. Our company at the time was I-5. And so people rolled right into our garage. We packaged 500 to 1,000 shipments a day. It was back in the day when...
But you didn't start shipping for other people. So when did that idea come?
No, I started in 97, 98 selling internet products.
Right.
And it literally came from, I was a DJ. I was a radio air personality, and somebody called me up on the phone one day and said, hey, have you ever thought about, doing this? And I'm like, what's the internet? And, I was on CompuServe and Prodigy. And one thing led to another. I'm like, sure, I'll figure it out. And that's been my kind of mantra for life is, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And scaled that business, turned it into ShipOffers. And throughout the entire process, it's been like rolling the dice. Like, I don't know what is coming tomorrow. Remember, I just told you I'm watching trends. So I have an idea, but I don't know how the wind's going to blow. So the things that have stayed consistent for us is keep good counsel and cards. Like, I'll show you my cards. I just won't show you how I'm playing my cards.
Yeah, sure. Fair enough.
And so I'm learning and I'm watching and I'm always in observation mode. My mom used to tell me that all the time. Son, you always have this look on your face like you're a little spacey, but you're always thinking about what's going on around you. And that's one of the keys to business for us at 18 years down the road has been, there's a lot of companies that flip on and they're gone tomorrow, but we're still here. So I figured out something.
Is there anything that has surprised you in the entrepreneurial journey that you can think of as far as like, wow, I thought things worked like this, but they don't.
It's not a straight line. I figured that one out.
Okay.
It's a bell curve and goes up and down all around.
Right.
I think the things that I figured out most, a handshake still goes far. Having a real conversation with somebody, not just a cash conversation, because at the end of the day, when the money's gone, the person, you're still there.
Is that a relational versus transactional relationship you're talking about?
Yeah, and I believe I've built better businesses based on relationships with great people.
Only always.
And one of the deals that I like to say is like, look, hey, I'm not here for your money. I'm here to see what we can create together in life and make the world a better place.
Which is why you're successful, right?
And but I think life lessons, my little bit of my pit stop along my journey really derailed a little bit of my life, my family, and my friends. And I was literally $1 million in debt, didn't know what to do. And, I had an addiction issue. So life lessons showed me I made a lot of money fast and I didn't know how to deal with the success.
Sure.
And then I watched my marriage and everything else fall. I was separated from my wife for 3 years. And then in the midst of all that, once all that chaos kind of like got down, I realized, wow, like there is such a gift in the lesson that I learned. And that's where I found my message. And so ShipOffers really, I didn't have the name of ShipOffers until I hit TNC 13. I think William Shatner was on stage.
Yeah, that was 13.
And I was in San Francisco and I hadn't gotten to a live event from 2001, basically other than the Natural Products Expo. And I had gone to Affiliate Summit a few different times until 2013. And a friend of mine, Kevin Cohen, says, hey, you know what, Tony, you've been stuck behind the desk. It's time you get out in front. And I remember going to San Francisco. I met some incredible people who are great friends to this day. And I saw William Shatner up on stage talking about the Brown Bag Wine Club. And I was saying to myself, I'm like, if this guy in his 70s, 80s is having fun doing something that is totally just having a conversation, a thing of wine with a friend and trying to figure out what kind of wine it is in a discussion,
right?
Why am I not having fun? Because at the end of the day, fulfillment isn't some sexy, fun business, but it should be. And so what we've done is discover a way to make it really, really fun.
How do you make it fun?
Well, enjoy what you do, hire passionate people who love helping others. And at the end of the day, remember that no matter what, there's things that are going to go wrong. And can you have fun along the journey?
Is there anything that went wrong that you can share that would be a lesson for how you dealt with it or something you learned from it that was a takeaway might benefit people?
Yeah, man, ask for help. I think the biggest thing, like even talking to you the other day on the phone for what was supposed to be a 45-minute conversation was about an hour and 40 minutes, almost 2 hours. I hung up the phone. I went into my business partner's office, Doug, and I said, everything that I needed to hear, my membership to War Room, my thing to TNC, all of it was worth that phone call. There was nothing more that I needed than reassurance that, hey, there's more that someone like Roland can hear because I can't see my blind spots.
Yeah.
So you have to have counsel that can help you to see some of those things.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, what did you talk about? I'm like, well, wait till his list comes out, because it was long and it was tons of opportunity. And I have to remind myself that sitting across you, no matter if you're at a restaurant, at a dealership, taking a walk, are conversations.
Yeah.
But so many of us are like, oh, I don't have anything to offer. Like Wicked Smart, like, I don't have anything to offer.
It's
but we do
so
have
hard
something to
pull
offer,
that out of people. You
right?
have to say, you do have something to offer.
So all my job has really been since a friend of mine knocked on the door when I almost took my life. And someone knocked on my door and said the most important statement I ever heard: your life has meaning and purpose, but what you're doing right now doesn't. And so I've taken that every single day and said, how do I add meaning and purpose to everything that I do? And so that means every conversation, regardless. And I remove my podcast. I say, what's the definition of success?
Yeah.
So I want to remove that, because that's the most important thing everybody thinks about. Like you were talking your story about neighbors and friends or whatever. I love what I do, and I can't imagine not waking up, getting to have great conversations with amazing human beings.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something people, when they sell their business, that they forget that a lot of their social network, a lot of their social is in the business. And so when they sell it and they just don't, and this is something I've learned going through businesses. I practiced law for several years and then stopped practicing. And my partner, who I'm still friends with, said, I'm really disappointed that we're not going to see each other that much anymore. And I was like, we see each other all the time. He's like, no, when you work together, you see each other all the time because you're thrown together, and we want to, and we will want to, but we won't because we'll have other things. And I was like, no, that's not true. And it has been. And we stay in touch. And I see, this is Grant. I see him once, I see him maybe once a month. I talk to him because he also happens to be our attorney. I talk to him, a few times a month, but it's different. Back then we'd be like, hey, you want to grab lunch? Because we were together opportunistically meeting with people and then say, let's go to lunch. And when you lose that, you lose your social network, which is a little bit of a digression, but it is kind of interesting. You need to build something beyond that, right?
Yeah, and I think you would agree. I mean, you are your brand.
Yep.
And for the longest period of time, the company was the brand, and I was just like a person in the company. And so through this whole process from 2008 until today, I've really made it the other way around.
Is it important to have a personal brand?
I think 100% in this day and age.
Why?
I think the obvious is, like, if it all collapsed, would it stand? And of course, because I'm here.
I don't think it's obvious, though. I think there's a lot of people. I mean, I didn't start till about 18 months ago, and you obviously as well. You just said you didn't start for a long time. So I think it's something for everybody that is, that's in the audience to get from that, is that ideally personal brand and non-personal brand, I won't say impersonal because that'd be wrong, is really important. And you look at companies like Virgin with Richard Branson, or Apple with Steve Jobs, or Spanx with Sarah Blakely. The list goes on and on. Personal brands prop up brands, but if the personal brand is your brand, Tony Robbins, Harv Eker, those kinds of, or musicians, right, that don't expand beyond, or famous people that don't expand into products, then if something happens to you personally, an injury or whatever, then all of your income and your assets go away. But if you're building brand equity by propping up a brand with a personal brand, then it helps.
Yeah, I think it's a win-win. I definitely love your angle and takeaway, because for me, I didn't really think I had a personal brand. But I had to remind myself, I came from radio, and I used to walk on stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Thank you. It's different, like, having a conversation than being a radio DJ, because the voice inflections and everything I do completely shift.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't talk like this.
Give me the radio voice for a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Roland Frasier. Now, if you've never noticed, Roland plays what instrument?
That's awesome. That's great.
So it's just different, even though it's still the same.
Yeah.
Now that I've said that, my voice inflections and patterns will change for the rest of this conversation.
So you've gone back into that muscle memory. That's funny. Okay, cool. So you have another passion project that I didn't even really know about until we talked about it the other day. Can you share a little bit about that and how it helps you in your business?
I think it is my centering mechanism.
Yeah.
So what do? I help people, for the lack of it, is with fulfillment for their business. And I realized I was professional. And I realized that I wasn't living up to my true potential for my personal. And so a little of that is I was not being fulfilled. I wasn't living a fulfilled life, and I wanted to realize what would that look like. And so about 2.5 years ago, I had been writing kind of my notes down on paper and kind of scripting some ideas and thoughts. And I decided, you know what? I've gone through a lot, and I would love to help others avoid some of those pitfalls. And my phone rings often from somebody, even if it's somebody who's interested in investing in a business. And they're like, hey, can I talk about this? And I'm like, no. Because if you're going to talk about that, you're avoiding the real situation that you keep showing up and telling me that there's an issue around. Why don't we talk about that? And what I realize is now my phone rings multiple times a day from people saying, hey, you got 5 minutes to talk about this? And I'm like, that's more important to me than the money and all the other stuff. Because you'll make more of it when you're more fulfilled.
Yes.
And so I launched a brand called BeFulfilled. It was a statement that was
it BE and fulfilled. Okay.
BeFulfilled, and it was on our wall at our office. And so every day I walked by it and I saw, you know what? That's what life is about. You want to be fulfilled. And so what would that look like? And so I launched a podcast first.
And what's the name of the podcast?
BeFulfilled, the real stories behind success.
Nice.
And you've been on that show. And then from there, I kind of was writing down, thinking more of my thoughts. And I'm like, I should take my framework and put it into a product. And I'm like, a journal. I'm like, I hate writing. But what I've uncovered through this process is I've met a lot of people who don't like to write. And they're digital. And they put all of their thoughts down on a text message and shoot it off to somebody. But at the end of the day, it could get wiped away, just like it could on paper. You could lose it. But there's something about transferring your thoughts down and then actually having muscle memory do some of the work and write.
Meaning actual physical writing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then when you can see things show up, like I can track now patterns and habits. Now I can track what I was doing last month, last week, and I can start saying, no wonder I haven't been feeling great. Look at like how I've not been sleeping. My diet's been way off. I haven't gone to the gym. I haven't been really me. What's really going on? And then I start looking back, and the first question I ask you in the morning is, what's your focus? If you don't have any focus, where are you going?
Yeah.
And
how do you focus in the morning? Is it through this process you're about to describe?
Yeah. I mean, I wake up in the morning. Wayne Dyer, God rest his soul. Like I found Wayne too late, like in the journey. I'm so grateful that there's so much good content around. The movie, The Shift, it's a great book. He wakes up in the morning and kind of the first thing that he does is he stretches his arms to the sky and says, thank you 3 times. So the moment you wake up is kind of like the first thing is gratitude. And if you can have an attitude of gratitude, everything around you will be better. No matter if you're going through hell, just keep going, as the old saying says. So
I'm taking notes real quick. So it's a movie called The Shift?
Yeah, and YouTube has it for free. I don't necessarily know how long it's been up there or if it will be up there.
Okay.
Great. It starts out slow. A lot of great people that you'll recognize from watching the movie. It's an older movie. But what that taught me is that we all kind of go through life and need a shift.
Yep.
And so that was one of the biggest things for me, is having a shift take place. And so I didn't know anything about a journal. I've never bought anybody's journal at the time. And next thing I know, I've got this process down on paper, and I started handing it to my friends and my family, and everybody's like, wow, you should bound this and actually do something. And I'm like, I kind of know somebody who could print this. And then the next thing I realized, I don't print hardcover products. And that's what I wanted. So I was like, well, I guess I don't know somebody. So I went out into the world and I found a company called Book Block based out of Chicago. And then they have a company in London. And next thing I know, it arrived from Turkey. And I was like, all right, that was weird. That was a great process, but it was $16.50. So it took me back to the supplement.
Also, note to self, outsource to Turkey.
Yeah. So it was also back to the supplement. It was $16.50 a unit.
Yeah.
And that's not a business.
No.
That's a hobby.
Yeah.
And so I needed to figure out what I needed to tweak to actually make it a business. And through this process, it has been one of the most eye-opening experiences for me. More people will grab a journal for themselves and realize on checkout to grab one for their wife, because they realize that the most important person is the person you do life with.
Right.
And the process comes with an online guide. So it walks you through a course, a 12-week course, and then there's a community behind it. And that's what saved my life. And that's what ultimately I'm trying to help others to realize. If you can build community, past monetary, but community of real people who care. Like my buddy did not have to call me and then knock on my door. He saved me at my lowest point.
Right.
And so my obligation is to help others avoid that pitfall.
Right.
And in that process, what I realized was all right, cool. Be Fulfilled. The journal, it's awesome. The community's great. But what else could I do? And so I'm in the process right now of co-authoring with, thought leaders and people in their own unique right in their industries to, kind of come up with something. So our next one's dropping about recovery. And so Be Fulfilled Recovery is launching. I have a Be Fulfilled Marriage in the works. I'm doing a spiritual walk. I'm trying to end.
You doing the Compostela thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to end discrimination.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm working through right now. So
awesome.
I've got a bunch of rabbis, priests, and monks and people that I'm, talking to.
Right.
Putting it all down on paper. And my goal is to end discrimination, because the first view, I think a lot of us, is when you mention religion or something, people go, oh, I'm not talking about that.
Right.
And you've already discriminated without even understanding what makes somebody somebody.
Right.
And so I'm just using this as a peer platform to have fun.
That's
We
great.
give it out to our customers. I take more calls during my day that may not necessarily turn into a monetary gain, but something more of a personal gain,
Sure.
which is lasting, and I love that. And somebody could be sitting on a beach in Croatia and make a 2-minute phone call, and in 5 minutes, that call hangs up, and they're like, wow, that was life-changing. Because for me, if I can just hold up a mirror and let you see your reflection,
Right.
you've got everything you need.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need somebody to help you see your blind spots.
Is the process that you go through there, is it like a multi-step thing that you could share, or briefly?
I mean, literally imagine your week, 7 days. So the only day you have to rest is Sunday. So I give you that day off to have fun, do what you'd like. In the morning, you just wake up, it's focus, and then you jot down kind of what you kind of have to do.
Okay.
Like whatever your phone is telling you, or your calendar. And then you just put that process down on paper. And then for me, is I actually visualize, and we teach this, is to visualize what that relationship with or conversation with Roland would be. What would that look like? So just take for a moment and jot that down. And then you schedule out your day. Your phone's going to alert you and do everything for you. But if you can jot into your memory, when I get the moment with Roland, I'm present. I'm now more here with you. And then there's space for you to just journal and kind of be free with your thoughts. And then the evening is a reflection back on your day. To look back at what did you do today? What was one thing that was just amazing about your day? A conversation with your child or son or whoever it may be, so that I slow down enough to not let this day pass. So I'm looking forward to the next day. I want to remember good, bad, and ugly stuff that even happened during the day. Because when I look back, my favorite thing on my phone on Facebook is not what happened today. But I love looking back at my Facebook memories and saying, you know how far I've come? Because none of us really stop and appreciate our journey. We're so oh, what's the next ride? And I'm a big believer is don't skip the line of life. At an amusement park, everybody wants the fast pass, but no one wants to wait in line.
Yeah.
But what happens if you waited in line, you met cool people, and you built really awesome relationships?
I like that movie Click with Adam Sandler.
And it's a great visual of what life is. Just pause it for a moment and enjoy this moment. We'll never have this moment together on this day ever again. So what can I learn from it? When I write in my journal tonight, I'm going to say, hey, Roland, you had to run to go speak on stage, but I got 35 minutes with your son.
Yep.
That was cool because we never had that before.
Right. Yeah.
And we talked about a whole bunch of business and other stuff, and I made him important. That's really, for me, more than anything, because that is a connection.
Yeah.
And you can't take that away.
Right.
And then you grade yourself, kind of how you ate today, how you slept, exercise. And the whole process, in my opinion, has been one of the most life-shaking, altering changes in my life, because now I've documented my process, and the reports and the things that people are getting from it just tells me, you know what, keep moving forward, iterate as much as you possibly need to, because it's never done. And so if you're okay with revising things as you go, and so if gentle suggestions have been, hey, I'd love more writing room, or hey, can you put a band on it? Could you put something to hold my pen?
Yeah.
Could you put in a box, could you put a manual? People will just keep saying I'd love to help you. And so if you're open to that, even going back to supplements, if you're open to that, if you're a friend, if you're open to being coached, so much more is on the other side of that versus your ego, which is I got this. I'm I don't have anything figured out. All right, Roland, I think you've got some of it figured out, but how often do you actually are surprised by wow, that was interesting, that worked.
So many times.
My upgrades, everything that I've gotten, I listened to you on a podcast. Yeah. And I'm could you send me your upgrade? The next thing I know, I'm using it wherever I go. Amber even said, hey, did you ask for your upgrade? She knows, right?
That's awesome.
So it's I only know what I know. And if I want to expand, I need to learn and I need to become a student of the game. And so every single day, the journal is allowing me the moment to be humble enough to say, what would I like to create today?
Nice.
Because I don't allow anything on my schedule unless I put it there for today. It's already been created.
Right.
So I'm now holding something that I say, all right, what do I want to create today? And
Love
that's really where the magic lives.
I love it. I like that's where the magic lives. That could be a good tagline for your journal. Cool. So let me just ask you a few other questions. Do you travel a lot?
I do. I love it.
Any travel hacks other than the upgrade strategy that you that is now working for you?
Yeah. So I use Vinny Fisher turned it on to me a long time ago. Peppermint. I carry a little bit of peppermint, like essential oils in my pocket whenever I travel.
Okay.
So whenever I get into a plane and maybe I don't like the curry that they just serve for all the other guests, I just can change it really, really quick and clean my sinuses and actually breathe.
Okay.
So I love doing that. I use Trip It and Clear. Those are my favorite like little tools.
Okay.
And if you don't have Clear, I always say get Clear in TSA.
Yeah.
Because you clear, you're done through TSA and you're onto the plane.
Yeah.
I usually get through any airport in under 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's a big deal too.
and most people don't realize that. And then I always book travel. Clear your cache. A lot of people forget to clear their cache when they're looking because everybody's smart. You know this. Everybody's cookied. And then I actually keep a little journal and I say, what was the price on this date? I set alerts, but then I actually open up other browsers and come back and get new alerts.
Smart. Yeah.
So what you realize is that Google's just tagged me and they're sending me one price for the same thing, completely different.
Right.
Don't be afraid to call the airlines.
Yeah.
The airlines still have great things that they can tell you and give you. And so I use my points. I did it for British Airways in a couple months. We're traveling for a month to Europe.
Yeah.
And the internet gave me one price and I got on the phone and I got a way better price.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And don't be afraid to get a credit card. So like for us, I have a British Airways card. You spend $30,000, you get a companion pass. So you fly first class, you have a companion, it costs you an extra $2,000. And they get to fly with all the taxes.
Nice.
So little things like that. I mean, I haven't I figured it as much as you and listening to some of your guests.
You got all kinds of stuff.
It's for me, it's just more interesting to game the game.
Yeah.
To level up and figure out what you can learn today.
What do you read or listen to or otherwise consume that helps you in the business world?
So Brian Kurt's new book, Over Deliver, which has been great.
Write that down.
Super kind of informative. Around kind of systems and procedures. I'm going to go with Charles Duhigg still, The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Business and Life.
Was that good? Because I was just concerned that The Power of Habit would be too much stuff that I already knew from knowing about habits. Is there new stuff in there?
I think I think when I read it, and will keep rereading it, my father at the time was alive and had Alzheimer's and dementia, and I was fascinated to learn, why does my dad walk off at this specific time of day?
Right.
And then just learning about some triggers and things that happen, and then the reward and the cue and the things that we do without even knowing why we do them. And then peeling back the layer even more, realizing that that's why the journal works so well for me, is because I get to go back and look at the patterns that I keep creating. So that just kind of reinforced it. And then I think, I'm in, recovery. So I have a book that helps me to just remind myself of my selfishness and self-centered, that I was telling Ryan, if I don't stop, my first knee-jerk reaction is no.
Yeah.
It's when I pause and I get into gratitude that I remember that I'm here for something bigger than saying no.
Right.
And so that just helps me to kind of center myself.
I like that.
Yeah.
Nice. So if people want to get a hold of you and find out more about all of these things, or get the BeFulfilled thing, or get an offer, or give you money to potentially lose but potentially make a bunch of money on, where are all the places they would find you? 2
wonderful places for you. I appreciate the offer as well. ShipOffers.com and then TonyGrebmeier.com.
Okay. And will you spell Tony Grebmeier just in case?
Sure. Tony,
right?
GRE, B as in boy, M as in Mary, EIER.
Perfect. And what about BeFulfilled? Is that its separate thing?
Yeah, BeFulfilledJournal.com.
Okay, BeFulfilledJournal.com. And then the podcast is, again,
BeFulfilled. And you can go to Tony Grebmeier and listen to that.
Okay, and iTunes and all those places as well. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. My honors. It's just super cool to spend some time with you, and you're one of the smartest people I know and my favorite to just listen to. So thank you.
Thank you.